Yes. We are live. We are live. Yes, we're going to talk about. I'm going to have you vamp. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to.
Does that involve dancing?
It could. It could.
Well, it would create a sensation, but maybe not the one that you're looking for.
True. True. I am going to email myself some pictures, and I'll pull them up here when I have access to them. Good morning, Daniel. How are you, my brother?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm actually excellent.
Good.
I just told everybody that's here, that's pouring in. I already told them over at Bible Every Morning the good news. In fact, that's how I announced it to somebody yesterday. I said, I have good news. And they're like, what? I lost my job. And they're like, huh? It is good news. And when I talked to my mom, I didn't say I have a good news part. I just said, we talked a bit about what's going on with her. And then I said, oh, and I just lost my job. And it took a moment. It settled in. She goes, oh, I think that's a good thing. And I'm like, you're right. It is a good thing. We'll get to that. Let me, any news things that you want me to bring up? Did you send me an email with some headlines?
I sent you just a couple of things that kind of, if we have time to discuss, I want to defer to you and all of the things that you wanted to discuss.
I just got an email from. Oh, okay, sorry. Hold on, let me go back. And there it is. Recent headlines. Let's do this first one. I'm going to bring this up and have you talk about it. Hold on a second. Sorry, people, doing show prep right here in the middle of the show. It's how it works.
So which one are you bringing up?
The Istanbul arrest.
Yeah, I can start reading about it. This is from news.am, and it's the headline is Police Issue Arrest Warrant for Istanbul Mayor. The mayor of Istanbul has been arrested. He was seen as a future candidate to run against Erdogan in the next election.
Really? Mm.
Yeah. So isn't it interesting that now he's been arrested? And I read in this and another place that the precursor to this was they voided his university diploma because of quote unquote irregularities. And what does that mean? What that means is that in order to run for office in Turkey, you have to have a university degree. So interestingly, his university degree was revoked, thereby invalidating him to run for future office. Isn't that interesting? Okay. And now they've arrested him as well as I think more than 100 other people. So this is how democracy seems to work in Turkey.
Yeah. So this, oops, I just attached something that is.
And this is the same government that is criticizing Armenia at the way that it runs its affairs, and look what's happening across the border.
Mm-hmm.
The last line. Go ahead.
His, you said his degree was voided.
Yes, and he's currently the only candidate in the upcoming primary of Turkey's main opposition, Republican People's Party, and is considered the main opponent of current Turkish President Erdogan. in the event of the latter's renomination. And of course he's going to be renominated.
Yeah, Erdogan's been in there for how long?
Oh, I don't even remember. It's been a long time.
It has been. It's crazy how this works out.
But I find it very interesting that both Turkey and Azerbaijan profess to be democracies, and yet they have these leaders who are just elected in perpetuity without meaningful opposition. And whenever there is any opposition, they arrest them on questionable charges.
And it's not blatant. It's weird that people don't see how well when they have elections, right? It's like they really people get cynical, and it's the ruse, right? A ruse of democracy, having elections, but it's not really a decision.
Well, and when you have Azerbaijan and Turkey claiming this moral high ground and accusing Armenia of all these things, well, look at their background. Look at what's happening in Turkey. Look at what's been going on in Azerbaijan for as long as we can remember. This Aliyev, who was appointed by his father, he replaced his father as president, and then he appointed his wife as vice president. I mean,
that's right.
That's how they define democracy in Azerbaijan, and they have the temerity, the gall to claim moral high ground in the issues related to Artsakh and Armenia, and the sovereignty of Artsakh and the sovereignty of Armenia. Where Aliyev is calling Armenia Western Azerbaijan.
Yeah. All right. I think I have my pictures. I think I got them.
You are ready to go.
Hold on. Let's see. There's this just bizarre one picture that wouldn't rotate properly, and I wanted to it's weird.
So set this up for us. You're going to be talking about the event that took place on the 15th, I believe.
Yes.
Very special event.
All right. Most of the audience here are aware of what happened, and I am now going to stop that, present, see if I can do this quickly. I've been not using his name, right, for just kind of conceal beforehand, right? So yeah, I got a troll that checks in. I don't know if he watches my Sovereign Artsakh channel, but I got a troll that checks in, and I'm like, I don't want him to get privy of any of this information, and so I just didn't mention the guy's name. Oops. Add to stage. Okay, here we go. Yeah, again, show prep should have been prepped ahead of time. Now I'm lost. Where is this picture? I have it on screen and I can't. So much for the smoothness of this here. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Come on, where is it?
Should I sing a song while we're waiting?
That might help. But these people bear with me. They love me. So I have this picture showing on screen, but I cannot now find it on my desktop. Like, I'm sharing what? What am I sharing? I'm gonna try again. Stop screen, present, share. Come on. Technological difficulties.
Du ins hamar mishtankes im harazatsul alget. Kes hete mishtim kianke. Uyaraz nere kes het. Ever heard that song before? It's a beloved Armenian song about the river Araks, which runs along the border of Turkey and Armenia.
I have heard that song before. Didn't you have a music video?
No, but I did record the song.
But I saw you standing next to the river Araks, right?
Yes, that was for a different song called Araks, in which I wrote the lyrics for.
Oh,
and sung in English.
Got it. All right, I think I got my issue figured out.
All right, let's see
Okay,
it.
so this is kind of the crowning, the most important artifacts, like the exciting, a couple of the exciting pieces on display. So Saturday night. Now edit the rest of this out, right? Edit everything out up to this point, and we'll start right here. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome to the Armenia update. So these are, as far as artifacts themselves, are extremely rare, one of a kind, property of the hero Soghomon Tehlirian. So Saturday was the launch of the Soghomon Tehlirian legacy, or drop the just Soghomon Tehlirian legacy exhibit. Dialogue and exhibit is how I labeled it, but it's a tour that began Saturday. We've got I got another date, a couple other tentative dates, but certainly at least one more date on the calendar, and more coming. And I'm getting feedback and response and stuff like that. And so it went amazingly. So this is you see to the right, the red book. That's really the crown of the jewel of the whole exhibit, is the memoir itself. But these artifacts, the picture there of Soghomon Tehlirian is the famous picture, one of the famous pictures that all Armenian Soghomon Tehlirian fans have seen. Well, that's the original, right? So this is the original picture owned by Soghomon himself of Soghomon. And we have Soghomon's own ashtray, Soghomon's lighter, and Anahid, his wife's pen, gold-plated pen. So it was nice to put these things on display. Let me, because I sent this picture to me in a separate email, I have to now go through this whole rigmarole again and find the other pictures. Hold on a second. But I've got it figured out. It's not going to be as here. I have a series of pictures I'll bring up. Now I can do it and present and share, and there it is. All right, so here's some more. These are original pictures that anyone who's a Soghomon Tehlirian, not all of these would people recognize, but these are come on, why is it doing that? There. The upper left is a very famous one of him standing next to a table. The one below that is prior to the assassination, right? This one with the two girls. One is his niece that he rescued. He rescued her from a harem. And then the one next to that with him in uniform with the Cossack, kind of the Cossack uniform. That one's very famous. That one's a copy of that is in the memoir itself. And then this, the boy above on the upper right is Soghomon's brother who died. So he had three brothers, and only one of them was killed in the genocide. And that's his next oldest brother's name is Avedis. All right, let's move on to the next picture. Look at that. Look at that. This was my guest of honor, the distinguished Taner Akçam. This man is referred to as the Sherlock Holmes of the Armenian genocide. He's the first Turk to teach the Armenian genocide. And look what he has over his shoulder. Soghomon Tehlirian. Behind him And then between his his thumbs, that's a picture on the table behind him that looks like he's holding and displaying. That little picture there is the picture of Talat's apartment in Berlin. Actually, there's two pictures. I have two pictures like that. One is of the apartment of Sogelman's apartment, so I'll have to double check to make sure that's the right apartment. But those buildings aren't standing anymore. They were destroyed during World War II. But look, I've got Taner Akçam framed and in with all of this glory. The books behind him. There's one. His right thumb is touching a black book. The right thumb that's closest is a black book right there. That's his first book, a shameful act, and he's persona non grata in Turkey. They won't let him in. He's teaching about the cover up, the history, and this guy was a draw. We had a full house. Let me show you a couple more pictures. Let's see, that's me listening, right? And every person sitting behind me are significant people. The woman behind me is the daughter of a famous Armenian singer. The man behind her is the son of the former president of the AMAA. And the guy behind him is on the board of Sahag Mesrib school that just burned down in the fires, right? So these, that's just a cross-section of the type of people that came to this thing. The Tellurian exhibit obviously was a draw, and some of these people are personal friends of mine, but Taner Akçam was absolutely a draw. Here we go. Look at this. We had a full house. This is the, let's see, is that picture fully on screen? Okay, yeah. So you might recognize this guy. Do you know this guy?
Looks familiar, but I can't place it. Him.
See, he's one of the heads of UAC, not UACC, but what's the union of churches that the UAC is a part of? It's the
Armenian Evangelical Union.
Yes, AEUA Association, something like that. So
yeah.
he's one of the officials in the union, and I had him do the opening prayer. So, and then also here in the hat next to the camera, that's Roger Kupelian, who is he was an artist for Lord of the Rings and The Matrix, an industry guy. So, and then here's another. I was putting on display some rare pictures. These are the Operation Nemesis guys. The man standing here with everybody. Sogelman's down here in the middle sitting. And the guy standing is Shahan Natali, the architect or the mastermind of Operation Nemesis itself. And these are Sogelman's personal pictures from a gathering post-assassination. You can kind of tell Sogelman's got a little swagger. He's like, yeah, now I'm the guy who killed Talat. And then here, my favorite picture of the whole evening. Can you tell me why you think this is my favorite picture?
Because somebody is holding a book, perhaps.
Yeah. So,
what book might that be, Michael?
Yeah. I got evidence now, right? This is like boom. So, this picture in and of itself is kind of emblematic of the event itself, because what was this event? It wasn't. Let's just get together and talk about some ancient, boring history, blah, blah, blah. No, I am now perceived by everybody in that room as being more or less on the level with this guy, right? Like of similar stature or academically, my knowledge base. I could go toe to toe with him on this subject, right? On Sogelman Tellurian. He admitted, he's like, why do you want me to come do this thing? I don't know anything about Sogelman. I'm like, that's the point. I am the guy. You know everything else, right? You're an expert in a number of other things in the history and the context of this event, and I know more about Sogelman than anybody else on the planet. So it's perfect scenario. And that's why he agreed. He didn't say I don't want to come. He's like, why are you asking me? I can't help the world know about Sogelman. I'm like, that's what I'm here for. That's why we're doing it. And he agreed to it. And it was so this guy, Tanner Akcham, and has an extensive Wikipedia page. So that's kind of, the type of person. And the guy behind him, not the guy in the hat, but the other guy behind him, that's Harut Sassoonian, who is also
Yes.
somewhat legendary, right? He's got a
Friend of
Wikipedia page as well. Yes, and you know him. And he was very happy to be there. And he was I certainly these two have met before, and I saw them in some great discussions. But so these are the only pictures. I had more pictures, obviously, but these are the only ones that I had emailed to myself to give you guys an impression of how it went. It was just, it's Tanner Akcham, man. It's Tanner Akcham. So now, kind of to update, I have a meeting today at 10 with one of my main collaborators, and I'm going to go make a list of all the things that need to happen next. I've started drafting a press release. I think that's something we should be doing. Maybe not, but I'll run it by that team member, and then I have another meeting tomorrow with one of the people that were there. He says, now what you need to do, right? It's like, you had this event, now what you need to do. And so he's a guy who runs public events, and I think he has some PR plans for us. And so this, pulling this event off, let me just describe real quick how the evening went. I'd been planning this obviously for a while. This was a display of the full archive, right? I brought everything that I have from the Soghomon-Tehlirian family with me, plus a carpet that was donated for the evening, a $4,000 Indian rug that was donated by an Armenian rug store owner that's in my town. I'm like, I got this event, I need something. And so my car with all of the two chairs, the rug, and all of the books and the archival stuff. My van, it was loaded down, heavier than it's ever been. And now as I'm driving along, I'm like, I've got the entirety of the Soghomon-Tehlirian archive with me in this car heading. So I get there, and it's just me, and I set up this. Well, a couple people showed up eventually, but I got there early, set this whole thing up in an hour and a half, and it looked 1,000 times better than I expected. Stepan Partamian, it was at his venue, Armenian Arts in Glendale, and he said after we set up, he's like, that's the fastest I ever seen anybody set up a set. And I'm like, it came together. I had it all planned in my head, and it looked better than I expected. I had a general idea when I went in, and Stepan even said, it's a coincidence that you got this date, because I literally just started showing exhibits here. So the walls were covered with an artist who had an exhibit earlier in the day, and all the art was perfect, right? It was nothing. It seemed to fit the color palette of all the other stuff I brought, right? And so it just really looked high quality, high dollar, and all I did was pay a little bit to rent the location, and then I bought a few stands for the pictures to stand up on, and some containers, right? That's all I did. It looked like several $1,000s were put into putting this thing together, and that's God's providence to me. Everybody that walked in, like, they felt like they were at something special, and so the reaction and afterward, I think it was a God thing, man. It was a God thing. So
Tremendous.
And you were there in spirit. So
yes, and hopefully for the next one, I will be there in person.
4 of our core teams. So we've got like a core. I have multiple core teams, but our core team, there's like 6 of us. 4 were there. You obviously were not able to, and one other person was out of town, but the others were there. Everybody was recognizing the energy level that this project is ramping up. I just spoke with someone last night that I was connected to after this event. It introduced me to a lot of people that didn't know anything about me and what I'm doing. But it also, for the people that have been kind of following along, who have become friends of the project, it it's solidified in their mind that I could deliver, right? That I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm not just saying nice words and convincing things, but I bring the receipts. I got the stuff. I can do it. I can pull in an influential public intellectual and pull something off that everybody feels like afterwards, like they benefited. And now everybody in that room knows more about Soghomon Tehlirian than anybody else in the world, right? By virtue of being there, the little bit of knowledge they got in that hour and a half to 2 hours, they are now more informed about Soghomon Tehlirian than any other group on the planet, other than a few historians that might know a few things. And so, and they felt that, and they could feel it. And as mostly Armenians in the room, there was a palpable excitement afterwards. And I got a call from one of my friends that was there, introducing me to another public intellectual friend of his. And she, yesterday invited me to come and speak at Stanford. She's speaking at Stanford, and she's like, I'm going to swap out with you. I'm going to let you take my slot. I'm like, let's do it together. Like, let's plan this. And so, and she said also at Berkeley and then in Michigan, and, you know, so planning a little bit of a tour now, and April is a coming. I even said to her, I was like, I should probably be in Armenia in April at some point. She goes, you're right. Let me put that on the list. So lose my job yesterday afternoon, and then last night the tour starts. So be encouraged, my friend. Be encouraged.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, and I did announce this also. I mentioned Sovereign Artsakh, and I said, oh, and I did want to say this to you today. It's like, I think this is a plan. I don't know if I'd mentioned when we started this, but I think I did, that I eventually want to bring in people to interview for this show.
Right.
And I mentioned that in the event. I said, every person in this room, I could bring on. At least half of the people in there are influential people with, you know, accomplishments and things. But even the people who aren't, right, are interesting. And I said, so I have a YouTube channel, and I want to start bringing people on to interview them, blah, blah, blah. And so a couple have responded already. So it may be as early as next week that you and I will be co-interviewing, and that'll be a bit of a different format. We'll talk about it off air, but we'll have somebody in between us potentially as early as next week.
Great.
So, there you go.
Great. We look forward to it.
There's some updates of what's going on over here. How you doing in the last 2 minutes?
Doing well. You know, I got several irons in the fire, and excited about what's happening here and our future plans and projects, which will unfold over time and will be revealed over time as we have news available to share.
Oh, it just occurred to me something that I need to send to you. As I was prepping for the Saturday event, going through all the archival material that I have inherited, and I found some old music. I may have told you about this, some old music that was in the collection of Soghomon's son. And I found one that was written by an Armenian, and I think there's a date on it. I think it was like maybe the 40s or 50s. The music is very worn, but it's called Hero Tehlirian. And I have a UCLA professor, or UCLA, she's a PhD candidate, and she also teaches there, but her emphasis is rare books, but also she delves in the musicology and knows the instrumentation and can read the music. And so she looked at it and sounded it out for me. So I'd like to, she put it on piano, and then there's lyrics to it, and she just sang, you know, roughed in the first verse. And so I should send that to you, because the feeling of it, the thematic music, it was like, ooh, this has to be a part of the theme as well. Some like original stuff written about Soghomon by Armenians after he's a hero. So
yeah,
that was kind of a eureka discovery. Oh, and we also had a musician who had just graduated from UCLA. At the spur of a moment, I just needed some background music before the event started, and she played the Kamancha. And it turns out she's friends with the guy that I want to play Soghomon Tehlirian. And I found out that from him. He's like, oh, turns out a friend of mine played. He's in Yerevan right now. He goes, a friend of mine, I think, played for you. I'm like, you friends with her? So it was just one of those full circle moments. All like
Beautiful.
Fingerprints of God all over it. So and
Beautiful.
Here's someone's lighter that I'm holding. So this is my Solomon's with us. All right, time is up. I got to go find something to do with my life.
I have a feeling you will.
Love you, my friend. Good to see you.
Likewise. See you
Bye,
all next
everybody. Thank you all for bearing with me as I fumbled through this one. Love y'all.